Hello, hello, and welcome to the newest episode of Borderline Podcast Disorder. I hope you had a good weekend, and I hope you got a nice week planned ahead of you. Um, I had a, I think it started like a decent week, although it was quite hard, especially with the heat wave. It just tires me out so quickly and so easily. But it is what it is. And that's not even the most important thing that happened this week. Um, I decided over an event from a couple of days ago that I basically I cut off someone very important from my life. Um, Cut him off, and that's it. I'm gonna tell you about it. Basically, it's my well, is this person that I usually refer to as my sister. She's my biological aunt, but we grew up very closely, um, and because obviously, like my her biological mother was my mother, the woman who I cherish and adore and raised me. Um, I always felt like it was right to call her my sister, but uh, this stings a lot. The fact that I have to of like I've this fact that I've decided to end all relationships definitely stings a lot. It's mostly because um, she's my birth giver's biological sister, and she knows what the my birth giver did to me. She knows a lot more than I ever even I've told you guys that she knows a lot. She knows pretty much everything because I my mom knew everything. And funnily enough, when my mom was still around, before my mom died, my birth giver um, wouldn't even dare to get anywhere near, trying to speak with anyone because she knew what she would get from my mom. But now it just seems like more and more. I've seen it in the last year or so. Actually, like the last couple of years, especially ever since mom died, that my birth giver and my um, I'll still call her sister for the just to keep things clear with you guys. They've been hanging out a lot, and in witnessing that, um, it's kind of like having someone be friends with your abuser. And I confronted her a couple of times, um, and her response was pretty much in the lines of like, well, she's family. She's like a blood relative to me. I'm trying to be, like the fucking Switzerland, in this situation. But that's not peacekeeping. Sorry, peacekeeping. That's not peacekeeping. This is betrayal. And I just feel like, especially, when I look at my sister, I always saw that, if I were to imagine being in a courtroom, against my birth giver, and she would be on my side of the courtroom. And now I don't want to be anywhere near someone who's in the middle. I in this situation I don't need a middle. And I just decided, and I just had to face actually the reality that because of that I lost all my trust in her. And yeah, basically cut off the ties with her completely. um, she's not coming to the wedding, which is something that I'm really sad about, and I think it's her fault. But this is a decision I've made. No one, well, neither her children, unfortunately. I don't want anyone coming to my wedding knowing that they may discuss my said wedding or my said personal life and affairs with someone who's been an animal, the worst kind of animal as well to me. And it was hard, and I feel like the ever since, again, a couple of days ago, since I've came to this realization, although things kind of like took a turn ever since January, the last time when I went to Romania. um, I kind of decided to not, you know, be as close. Now I just decided to go and keep. I still thought that I'm just gonna keep things like amicable, or I'm just gonna pretend I'm okay with it and accept whatever her decision is. That ended. That ended now. And what I was gonna tell you is that I'm I was scared at times, and thinking that, am I like, here's another bridge that I'm burning, which is quite common. Um, I know it's a BPD trait, and I know it's something that I've done in the past, but and I know I have this like sort of all or nothing mentality, which can destroy me, and it has in a couple of situations. But look, I've been using radical acceptance. I had to accept that my pain was real, and my sadness and my disbelief, or the lack of trust that's been made, it exists. I feel it. And I've then again yesterday, and for the last couple of nights, I just well, for the last night especially, I just felt quite miserable. And I think after I came home from work, from my day job, I was just sitting on a couch, just with my mind wandering everywhere. Managed to fall asleep, then woke up, then fell asleep again, then woke up again, then fell asleep again, then woke up again. And I think the stress tolerance, and obviously some of these thoughts weren't the nicest or the best thoughts that I could have had. And the stress tolerance, it's definitely helped me out a lot. Um, I wanted to, send a very nasty message, just pretty much, highlight everything that's wrong with her way of dealing with my birth giver. I just chose not to. I just chose to just silently, remove her from all my friend lists and stuff like that. And now our conversation has been archived. If she's messaging again, I have no intention on checking that. Um, and I didn't cut her off because I wanted, or because I want her to suffer. I did it because I'm done sacrificing my healing for other people's comfort. Um, Forgiveness doesn't always end in reunion. Sometimes it ends in silence. And silence, it's still healing when it's chosen. I'm sure I'll miss her, and I don't think I'll regret this. I've been thinking about it for ages. Both are true, you know. And it's like, I think it's one of it's from one of the DBT skills that you can grieve someone and protect yourself from them. They are both true. And yeah, if she thinks that family means being loyal um, to a blood uh, relative, fair enough. But blood is sometimes toxic. And yeah, again, it's been hard, and I'm still trying to figure out what's up. Um, but it's a decision that I stand by. And yeah, thank you all for listening. Now I know this is much heavier than the normal intros that I do. I just felt like I wanted to share the decision because it's something huge for me, and I hope it might help someone out there, either to realize that, hey, maybe something similar has happened to you, and you need to to protect yourself, or maybe it's because you think, hey, I actually feel like I can accept, or like I want to you know be friendly, or like I miss someone in my life, and I actually feel like I have cut them off for no reason, or not for the right reason, or anything like that. And then here is a chance for me, or like hopefully use this um, as a reason, or as a reminder that you can try and reach out again and rebuild that bridge. But for me, and in regards to she was the closest person, by the way. She was like my closest family member. Talking about my sister, you know. So now this stings a lot, but I don't want to leave the other scenario where I just accept it. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. And look, I'll leave this here for now. I'll obviously keep you posted on how things feel and stuff like that. But this week's episode is pretty cool. It's with someone that I know for like a recent, fairly short time, but I love the guy. He's such a lovely person. We met through our like part-time day job, and I'm always having a laugh with him. And I've learned throughout our conversation a lot of things that I didn't know about him. Um, and he was amazing, and I feel very grateful for him for sharing, very grateful to him, or for him, for sharing his experiences and his story, and being so open and honest about it. And I hope you enjoy my interview with Jody, and I'll catch you at the end. Thank you. Right. Okay. So how's it going, man?
I'm good, man. Yourself?
I'm good. I mean,
Apart from today being hotter than Mordor.
yeah, it's yeah, it's crazy. I
Yeah.
feel so. I've been sweating. I mean, for everyone listening, I'm sure it's not a joy to listen to what I'm about to say next. Neither for you because you're here, but I feel like I've been sweating from places I never thought I'd be sweating from before.
Pray tell.
I don't know. It's just. I mean, actually, you know what? Having said that, it's been like this last year as well for like a couple of
Yeah.
weeks. Yeah, I should get used to it. Is this climate change?
Possibly. I don't know.
Yeah, don't know.
I think it's interesting how whenever we get heat in London, we're always like, oh, we want it to be warm. We want it to be warm. And then we get it and we're like, no, go away.
Yeah,
Can't
not that
handle it.
warm. Yeah, not that warm.
Yeah.
It's like reasonably warm. What's reasonably warm for you?
A day where I like wearing layers. So if I can go out and wear a t-shirt and a shirt, that's good. But if it's just t-shirt weather or vest weather, I'm like, no, it's too much. It's too much.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, what have you been up to recently?
Here's a fun fact. Yesterday, I celebrated my birthday.
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you. Yeah, I turned 18.
Sure.
I turned 32.
32.
Yeah,
32 years young. Very nice.
yeah, 32 years young. Thank you so much. My mom came to me and she was like, "How old are you going to be this year? 35?" I'm like, "No, I'm not that old."
Have you got any siblings?
I do. Yeah, I have. Technically, I've got 5 siblings,
Right.
but I have an older sister.
Right.
and then I have an older brother, and
Right.
then the rest have passed away.
Oh, sorry about that
It's
one.
cool. They passed away like before I was born. I never
Oh,
really had a relationship with them, but they're still my siblings, still my
yeah,
brothers.
yeah, of
So
course, of course. Well, then, I mean, is there a chance? Is there any of your? Is there either your brother or sister who are 35?
my sister is turning 35. She was born in
Maybe
1990.
that makes
Yeah,
it a little bit better.
yeah. And then
Maybe.
my older brother is like 10 years older than me, 8 years older,
Right,
stuff
right,
like that. I'm the youngest. I'm the baby.
right. Well, actually, you know what? For everyone who's listening that doesn't know you,
Yes.
do you mind? Again, not even. I hate saying, "Oh, give us a brief," as if like, "Oh, please don't go too long with that."
Of
But
course. Yeah.
that's why I'm not going to use the word
A
brief.
blurb.
Well, I'll just say, yeah, just give us tell us who, or no, again, no, don't tell us. I know you. I mean, to an extent.
Yeah,
I don't know
as
your,
far as you know.
yeah, I don't know your deepest secrets,
Yet.
yet. But yeah, for everyone who doesn't know you,
Uh,
who are you?
I'm Jody. I'm a performance poet, practicing playwright, legend. No, yeah, I'm just an all-round creative individual. Love to
Humble.
try to be humble. Um, I love to perform. Love to entertain, and yeah, um, white chocolate is what people. No, people don't call me that. No, I feel like melting white chocolate today, but
Yeah.
basically, long story short, I'm just a guy who likes to perform and entertain and loves art and
And are you from London?
born and raised London. I don't sound it. A lot of people tell me I don't sound like I come from London.
I don't know what I mean. Yeah, I don't know what this
Yeah,
sounds
you
like.
yeah.
I think and also like I heard this thing where people think that like Cockney is London, and then it actually turns out that is not.
It's not,
Cockney is
yeah.
Cockney, and London is
Well,
London.
well, with the interesting thing with London, I feel like it's like New York, where there's different pockets
Mm.
where like the Bronx, Harlem, uh, whatever, they all have different accents. I think that's the
Yeah.
same for London, like
And then
East
which part
London.
of London are you from?
I'm from West London, but when I say West London, I'm not from like Kensington. I'm from White City, Shepherd's Bush. I'm from like
I mean, you know, the one of the crazy, not craziest, 'cause I think it's crazy to me, but I remember when I first moved to London. In the first week, I did a gig, and then I met this comedian, this Serbian guy, who turns out he goes, "Oh yeah, I grew up in Chelsea."
okay,
Yeah, but then it turns out Chelsea used to be like it's like a shithole with
really?
like yeah apparently like, at least the place that he talked about, it was like council estate. It was a council estate that basically his parents were like migrants from former Yugoslavia,
Huh.
and then they were like refugees,
Mhm.
and then they got to like they lived in because that was my thought at first. I thought, you know, because again the idea of coming to London, and I think within the first week, because of my old day job, I went through to Knightsbridge and I saw it and I was like, oh wow, this is, you know, to me that was West London,
Yeah.
you know, and I thought Chelsea was that, and then he goes, oh, I was raised in Chelsea, and I was like, damn, and he goes like, no, actually it was rough as fuck,
Yeah.
council estate.
All my life, Chelsea's been like it's in the name Chelsea. It's always been posh.
I mean, but this is the thing though, isn't it? Like when there is that TV show something
Made in
like
Chelsea.
yeah, because I thought that's like meant to be a, you know,
Sitcom?
not if sitcom, but like I thought the idea was that, you know, you have these people who kind of like new money, not old
Yeah.
money.
Ah, yes. Yeah.
So that's like that's why with Chelsea again, like now my idea it's more like it was rough. Now is, or like now there are money, but it doesn't, you know, it doesn't change the history basically.
No. No.
But interesting. Anyway, so you're from Shepherd's Bush, or like Shepherd's Bush area.
Yeah.
Are you like when did you start doing? When did you start performing?
Oh, so I've always been into performing ever since childhood. Like, so when I first hit the stage, I was probably like 8. I was like, I was big into dancing as a kid,
Right,
street dance,
right,
and then I damaged my ankle, and then no more dancing. I just kind of grew out of it.
right.
Then I started taking up acting classes because I was always intrigued. I've been a film fanatic since a kid.
No way.
Yeah, love cinema, love movies. And
How come?
how come? It was just an escape. I hated
Interesting.
school, hated
Right,
primary school.
right,
So like as soon as school was over, like I'd go home and just watch a movie.
right.
Like as a kid, I'd probably watch like 2.5 films a day. Yeah, so like I when I'd get home from school,
Yeah.
I'd watch a movie
Yeah.
and then I'd straight away watch another movie, and then I'd watch half of a third movie, and then the next morning I'd wake up and watch the other half of that movie, and then go on. So I guess what is that 2.5 movies? Yeah,
Yeah, but then some days you'd watch 3 movies
yeah,
because you watched half of the one from the night before, and then another.
precisely. But then when but I was taken out of primary school and taken into homeschool, and then I would just watch movies nonstop. Yeah,
No way.
yeah. Hated school, hated it. Technically, I'm a primary school dropout. Pause. Yeah.
What do you mean? Because wait, what's the age for a primary?
So primary school is like ages like 4, 5 to about 3, maybe to about 11, 10, 11. Like I
Oh,
was in my year 6 final exams.
right,
They were called SATs at the time. I don't know what they're called now.
right,
And because I had severe learning difficulties as a kid, like
right.
dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, I sat down. I took a seat to sit my SATs wordplay. And the first question of the exam came up, and I didn't know the answer to it, and I ran out. I ran out crying.
No
The
way.
first question was name, Jody. I couldn't spell a 4-letter word.
No way.
Yeah, so that was a real traumatic experience. And then my mum was like, oh, "Screw this." Some like like the teacher was telling my mum that like, know that scene in Forrest Gump where Forrest, his mum is sitting down with a doctor, and it's like,
Yeah.
your son's just below
Yeah.
average. That was me essentially. So my mum was like, all right, screw, I'm gonna take him out of school and teach him myself to give him some type of fighting chance.
No way.
And now I'm a writer, so it's interesting how that works out.
How did I mean? How because that's quite interesting, and well, not quite. It is interesting, and I want to
Pick my brain about it.
yeah, and again, also because I think it's something that I forgot to mention before we press record, which I normally do. If you feel like any of the questions go into details that you don't want to talk about, you don't have to talk
Yeah.
about it. You can be like, I'd rather not get into that. That's absolutely fine.
Thank you.
But that's absolutely fine. My first question is, how much of it did you know then? In the respects of like, how much did you know that you're having? Did you know that you have learning difficulties, or you just thought that that's just who you are? Also, did you know that? Again, like, did you know that perhaps like the struggles that your mom had to, or like not the struggles, but yeah, basically this like whatever happened that went from okay, fine, we're gonna homeschool Jody. Yeah, like how much of it did you actually know at the time, or is it something that you found out later on?
Good question. Wow.
Thank you.
uh, um, no, as I since now that you say that, I look back and I think I didn't know any of it. You know,
Right,
I just thought I was slow.
right,
That was really it. But here's a nice story. I remember my mum sitting down with one of my teachers, and my only knowledge with like grading as a in school was like from watching movies. So
Right.
like I always thought like in England we'd follow the same as the US, where it's like A, B, C for grading.
right, right,
Like,
right, right.
all of my exam sheets had an X on it.
Right,
So I always thought, oh, what does that mean? What does an X mean?
right, right.
What does an X mean? And I asked, like, what does that mean? And my mom turned to me and she was like, X means excellent. You are excellent. So she, it was beautiful though, because
It's cute though. That's yeah.
And I think at that moment it kind of snapped. My mom was like, okay, my son's going to need some help.
Oh, fuck. Actually, what's the system in England?
In England,
Yeah.
I know. From what
Like-
I'm aware, we still, when it comes to like quite working class educational
Yeah.
system, we still follow quite an industrial way of thinking, where it's like we prepare kids to like go to work in like the workhouses, like straight from school into a 9 to 5.
Right. No, but I meant like because I obviously this sounds like again quite like a heartwarming story where your mom's like, "Oh, X from excellent," but I actually have no idea what the X means.
It just meant a cross as a no, like a tick.
Oh
and a
no!
cross.
Oh right. So you have
So I thought like because my only knowledge of grading was an American.
Yeah.
A,
Got
B,
it.
C, X. What does that mean?
Yeah. Right. Okay. Because yeah, 'cause that's why I was like, okay, that's cute. But then I was like, what does the X stand for? Okay, it makes sense.
But I think that also it's kind of poetic in the sense of a lot of my writing now does focus on wordplay. So for my mum to say excellent, that's like
Yeah.
an early form of wordplay that kind of
Yeah.
synced into my brain.
And then, but then, how did you? No, I feel like we have some other. I want to ask some other questions before we delve into how you started writing, like creative writing. But first, okay, so you're doing the homeschooling. Uh, how many people did you know that were also being homeschooled?
So the beginning years, it was tough because my mum has severe dyslexia herself.
Right.
So she was kind of teaching herself as she was going,
No
as she
way.
was teaching me. So like a lot of the stuff she did try to help me with. It did some stuff went in, but for the most part, I kind of taught myself to read and write just by watching movies and just
Wow.
trying to read the back of VHS and DVD covers.
No way.
Yeah, so that helped a lot. And but I never went to secondary school. So my mom started taking me to like a a thing called Education Otherwise, which was like a a, a, a group of kids who are homeschooled and just give me some type of like something to work towards or go towards where I could learn.
Right.
Yeah, but I still didn't like it. I did.
But then, I mean, did you know at that time that like you were in a like homeschooling was like quite different?
Well, well, yeah, for sure. Because like, with all due respect, when my mom took me to this group, those guys were fucking weirdos.
Uh,
I mean that with the utmost respect. That it was a lot of hippies. I was like, this is weird, dude. Like, I'm from the ends.
right.
I'm from Shepherd's Bush. This is weird.
Where was that? Was it far from where you
It
live?
was in Kilburn, Kilburn Park.
Kilburn. Kilburn. That's like north-ish or like northern, no?
West, like it's near like Labrador Grove and Latimer Road.
Yeah, kind of like west,
Yeah,
northwest.
I guess you could say that northwest.
Yeah, the ish, like
Ish.
northwest of. If you look on the map,
Yeah,
right,
it's
right, right.
London. Let's just say
Yeah, still London, but again, just a different part of it. Kilburn. Yeah, I remember. I think I did a couple of gigs there. Anyway, okay, so now, yeah, how? Because you talked about like you first you did the street dancing,
Yep, street dancing.
broke your ankle.
Street. So the story goes, I was big into dance, and then I was all throughout secondary school. I was homeschooled, and then I was going nowhere with my life quick, and I decided, you know what, I want to give acting a good shot, just see what happens. So I signed up for a performing arts course, and then which focused on like acting, singing, dancing, and that's when I started to get into like more contemporary dancing and ballet, but it was more acting that I was focused on. And then I was like, no, I want to put dancing to the side and go focus straight on acting.
And how was that?
That was great because it gave me an outlet because I had nothing going for me as a kid.
Mm,
I had absolutely nothing.
right,
So it was something that I could work towards, and like I had nothing else.
right.
And then it built my confidence up. And then like I auditioned for like some of the biggest acting schools in the country, got to the final round for a couple of big drama schools, didn't get in, which was a big hit. And then that's when I had to take up going to a theatre school, which I won't mention because I hated it. It was the worst experience of my life. A lot of classism, a lot of that's when like issues with mental health popped up, and I started because I had this idea in my head that I was going to be that person in my family to change our stars. Which is I put a lot
I
of
see.
pressure,
Yeah.
put a lot of pressure on
Yeah,
myself.
yeah, yeah.
And then when you get to the very final round of one of the biggest acting schools in the world, and it's your first time ever auditioning, and you come from this working class background, and you've got all this stuff that you're working so hard to achieve, and then bam, you get that one no. It's gonna hit. It's gonna hit.
Yeah.
It's like Miley Cyrus on a wrecking ball. It's gonna
Yeah,
smack
yeah.
straight into you. So that happened, and then I went to a theatre school that I really didn't enjoy. They were quite classist to me in little things, and they had a cheap bar, and I started drinking excessively. And yeah, I fell in love with a girl, trapped into a love triangle, confused love for lust, and all this stuff, and real just life experience, really.
Yeah.
And but it was I didn't grow up with a dad, so all this stuff that could have helped, like having someone to talk to, I didn't really have anyone, so I didn't. And at that point, I was undiagnosed autistic because of dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, all this things. Just,
But
excuse my language, a clusterfuck of emotions and
yeah,
whatnot.
but then did you when or like at this point did you have the diagnosis?
No, so at that point, because I'd went through all this stuff with the drama school and all this stuff with the theater and whatnot, um, I was drinking excessively and I was getting really angry. My mom could see, okay, my mom's in the abyss, and my mom was like, my son's in like some type of abyss. He needs to. So she took me to the NHS to get some type of to see a therapist or whatnot, and that's when he diagnosed me with like, oh, you've got this learning disabilities, and you're this, and I am, and all this other stuff. He was like, you could be on the autistic spectrum, and then that's when I was diagnosed with it. I was quite lucky because now it's difficult to get a diagnosis,
Yeah, of
but
course.
because at that point my mum didn't know this at the time, but I was suicidal. It kind of pushed me towards that because I
Oh,
tried to
man.
commit suicide 3 times
No
because I
way.
went through all this stuff. Sorry if trigger warning, trigger
No,
warning.
that's fine. We'll add that later. Don't worry
Yeah.
about it.
But yeah, all that stuff.
How old were you by this when this happened?
I was early 20s. So I would say because I've turned 32 yesterday, I guess I was around 23. So yeah, it was like 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Yeah,
Holy shit, man.
I know.
And then
Sorry if that's too much for you.
what? No, it's fine. It's fine. Not at all. I'm actually again because we didn't touch anything like this before, so I'm actually quite. So I think surprised is the wrong word. You know, also shocked is a bit too. Yeah, I'm just trying to digest it so that I know what to ask you and where to go with this. But no, you know what? Again, thanks for sharing. That's big. And I appreciate that. It's not the easiest of things, and you know, I guess again, I have a lot of questions because I've also been, and the people who listen to the podcast know. I think I've mentioned before. I've struggled with like against suicidal thoughts and ideation since I was 13. So again, I understand. Like this is why when you were saying to me, it wasn't that much of a, you know, because I've actually not only that I've been there, I've also I want to say I actually had the privilege to talk with other people who are also opened up, and then they share their experience as well, and you know, just a little side from everything that we're doing, or like chatting about. It's wild because like 3 years ago, before I got diagnosed with BPD and before I started like being even more open about, because I started doing therapy maybe 5 years ago, but I was hiding my ideations even from my therapist at the time. And then, but then what I'm trying to say is that yeah, in the last 2-3 years, I just feel kind of like privileged in a weird way where I'm like, you know, it's not, it's nice to know that I wasn't the only one.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like now when you said this, I'm like, yeah, again, it sucks, but in a grand scheme of things, to kind of like know that there is not, you know,
you're not alone.
Yeah, you're not alone in this weird, you know,
crazy to think that this is common with a lot of young men.
Yeah, and then like this is the thing about like how many more are there? You know, that's the one of the things, and then the other one is, you see, when you were talking about what, so then you're, because then when did you start being homeschooled? That was like what, around 12, 13?
12, yeah, say
12.
12
So that's 11 years of just kind of, or even more, thinking that, oh, I'm just not good at, I don't like school.
Yeah.
And then it turns out, you know, is again,
it just turns out that so I'm just wired differently.
Yeah.
So like school, it's very much like, it's quite orthodox in the sense like it's A, B, and C, but my brain's wired X, Y, and Z.
So you see, this kind of, again, like you think about because I was actually, I think on a different side where I was academically good, like on the top of the class sort of thing. But still, like I had the other things to worry about, like self-esteem issues and to eat up at me, you know, at night. And then I hear this and I'm like, oh shit, you know, again, it's a different, almost like a different version of a very similar story.
Yeah, the other side of the coin.
Yeah, yeah. You can say that. But now you see, obviously, we're talking about this. You're in theater school. You're having you're struggling with drinking. Are you still drinking?
I can have a drink every now and then, but
okay.
I know my limits.
Right,
I don't.
right.
I can. I'm not a big drinker anyway.
Okay.
But I do like a nice rum and coke,
Okay.
glass of red wine every now
How
and then.
did you, if that, because I've been sober for a couple of years, and I'm curious.
Congratulations.
How did you? Thank you. How did you? No, actually, let's take it. Let's take it again in some sort of chronological order. So you're in theater school.
Yep.
You're not liking it. You're also going through a heartbreak.
Yeah.
You start drinking.
Kind of like a quarter life crisis, not midlife crisis.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, again, I think it depends in what age. In the age that we live in is a quarter, but it would have been a half-life crisis.
Yeah.
Midlife crisis. Sorry, if we were living in the age where men died at like 35 or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, coming back. So you're going through this. You're still in the by this point. Are you still in theater school, or like what happened with that?
What happened? No, I remember. It got to. I know it got bad when it got to a point when I very nearly broke someone's nose.
Oh,
Yeah, I assaulted someone because I was trapped in a love triangle, and it's very dark
okay.
time. Like I'm no saint, but when it got to that point, like I was like, I need help now. I need to help myself.
Okay.
I think it's what they say with addiction when it's like the first thing, the first step to admitting you have an addiction is admitting you have an addiction. Like, so I think it was the same thing. The first step to this new chapter is realizing I need help.
Right. And then is that when you? Because it sounds like you and your mom are like tight.
We're very tight, probably a bit too tight. We're a bit too tight. Like we have a very interesting relationship.
That's good,
like
man.
it's good, but I don't think it's healthy to an extent because
Okay.
I've spent like every waking day with her, like from the age of like 12,
Right.
like, every day with her for like all throughout secondary school.
Right.
So I think it's interesting,
It's interesting.
but I'm thankful. Like,
Yeah.
I there's a lot of people out there who don't have a mom, who don't have a relationship with their parents. So I can't. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that when people have, I don't think it's necessarily like an argument that needs to be had where, because I feel like, again, ultimately with family, it's still it has to be the work has to be put on from both sides. I feel like it's way more nuanced than just kind of like having this sort of, oh, you gotta love them while they're still here.
Yeah.
Because I've met people with family that's horrible. I've met people with family that's lovely. And I also, again, I think I see a lot of people who have lost family that they wish they were close to, but then when they were alive, they were nice people. And then in that situation, that sometimes makes me feel like, what, yeah, it doesn't matter, because again, like it's a two-way street. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. Is like, people have to put in the work on both sides. I don't think it's fair to assume that, oh, you gotta. I feel like all this. Although again, I absolutely I adore my mom. We were super tight. We used to speak every day. With my dad, I loved him growing up. We had a bit of a rougher time and stuff, but I still miss him a lot. But I don't feel that. Again, I hear it from other people. It's kind of like, oh, you must. No, it still has to be both ways. Like you need, in order to give something, it needs to be reciprocated to it in one way or another. Because again, I've seen parents taking advantage of their children. I've seen children taking advantage of their parents.
Most definitely, yeah.
So that's why, yeah. Anyway, that was my point on that. But I'm like, like you said, yeah, it's nice to enjoy being around your parents. But I also feel like they have to do their work.
Yeah. Plus, it also gets to a point where you need to like spread your wings and fly and make your own mistakes and learn from them.
Yeah, as well as that. But even then, because I feel like even when my mom was like around, but this thing also, like, one of the greatest things is she wouldn't agree with me most of the time. Like she didn't know, like she had no idea about like my whole like mental health struggles, didn't know my like drinking addiction, drugs and stuff like this. No idea whatsoever. And obviously I think she knew she would have not been happy. But she's always been very supportive. Like, again, even if I did some of the dumbest stuff that I've ever done in my entire life, and she would tell me in private, she'd be like, that was a very stupid thing. She would still have my back. Like I remember, this is weird, because I wrote it the other day. Um, I remember I got in trouble at school because I basically I got into a fight with a kid that he used to bully me, but he was like this like short little kid, and then but he had the attitude like he had
He's a
the
big
attitude
man.
like yeah. And then I one day I just couldn't do it anymore, and I just went, like started like punching left and right, and
Were you a big kid?
uh,
Were you a
I
big kid?
was a big kid, but I was that sort of like big kid that small kids would make fun of,
Yes. Yeah.
and
And then it got to a point where
yeah, and I got to a point because I remember like he kept like slapping me over the head as I was like sitting on the bench writing at school, and I was like I'm done with this, and then I just started like it's almost like that like scene with like King Kong, I think, or Godzilla or whatever, where he just goes
just
like
wham,
left
just
and
going
right,
again.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Muhammad Ali just going straight in.
I mean the guy was like we had like kids interfering. The teacher came and like split us up. The kid had to go to again like the school nursery and stuff like this.
That must have served as a real reality check for the kid. Like, oh, there's consequences to my actions.
Funnily enough, no.
Oh,
Although he did move, I for different
he
reasons.
moved.
Yeah, a couple of
Wow. He got beat down once. And
couple of months later he ended up moving, but again that was apparently just that his mom or like his family actually moved to London, funnily enough. We were in Romania back then, but
Fun
anyway.
fact, I was that kid. Hello
No.
again.
No, he wasn't you. I'd still, I think the sound of his voice, it still haunts me. But anyway, all I'm trying to say is that even with that kid on the again in the nursery, and I think his mom was like, "Oh, we're gonna," no, his grandma, because his mom was in England. His grandma was like, "Oh, we're gonna go to the police. We're gonna," you know. Uh, my mom was like, "My son didn't do it."
Oh wow.
Yeah, my mom would be like, "No,
Uh,
I don't believe he did it."
but did she know you did do it, or she just refused
Yeah.
to believe you? She,
Yeah, at home she was like, "You're an idiot."
yeah.
Like I still got this is the thing. I remember once like calling her out. Well, calling her out. I'd be like, so she punished me. I wasn't allowed to touch my computer for weeks. I was only allowed to like read and write in my room. I didn't have because she was like, "What you've done was wrong." But then the thing is, she would still like stand up. And I was like, and then at one point again, I remember like calling her out, going like, "So you don't think I did it?" Because it didn't click with me that
Yeah.
it was just being wildly loyal. But she was like, "So you don't think I did it? But on the other hand, you punish me as if I did it. Which one is it?" And my mom was like, "Mind your fucking business."
Nice.
I was like, "Okay, fair enough."
I always find it interesting when parents say to kids like, "Go to your room," because like when you're a kid, your imagination's at full force. So it's like going to your room. It's like, all right, cool.
Yeah,
Like,
great.
yeah, great, cool.
Don't send me to the other room.
Yeah.
No, but yeah. So that's one of the things. Yeah, one of a story with mom. But anyway, coming back. So you were shit, man. Sorry about to hear about the scrap.
No, it's cool. It's life. Like, there's always rain before the rainbow.
Yeah, that's well. I to what extent though? Because I now you're talking about how you again you fell. Was it a depression or like that you'd say you fell into?
What afterwards or
No, before.
before? I think I was falling into. I call it an abyss of loneliness. So I was
Right.
falling into it, and it was
Right.
until I'd never put my hands on anyone ever since that time. But when that happened, it was like I hit rock bottom.
Right. But then before that, did you have any knowledge? Like, did you see? Like, are you saying this looking in retrospective to what happened, or did you almost see it at the like? Were you like live streaming this, where you were like, "Oh, I can feel like I'm getting closer, I'm getting closer, I'm
No,
getting closer."
no, because I didn't have the tools to acknowledge it. I didn't. It was just life.
Right. So to you, it was just that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And then what? Again, like I mean, obviously that's a pretty big incident.
Yes. Very
But
big.
but then
Luckily, no one pressed charges because I would have caught a case otherwise.
good on you.
Yeah, I was very lucky.
And then how long after that was is that when you went to like or your mom took you to NHS?
No, like after that, I was getting just more and more angry because I was working a job that I hated. I was working in Sainsbury's. Absolutely hated it. My life was going nowhere.
Right.
No one was listening. Like every time I tried to talk to my mum or it's someone I
Right.
know male role model around. I had no one. I had no friends.
Yeah.
Absolutely fuck all. And when no one listens, it's like you're suffocated.
Yeah.
So like you get to a point where, and also at that time, two of my favorite actors had taken their own lives. Philip Seymour Hoffman and Robin Williams.
I love Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was another factor, and it just got to a point where I was like, if actions speak louder than words, and then I just tried one, which was more like a cry for help. No one, I couldn't do it. Second time was like I really tried, and I somehow miraculously like survived. I'm not going to say how.
Yeah,
I'm not going to.
let's not go into that.
I'm not going to go into it. And the third time, it was kind of like a relapse in the sense where I find suicide. I'm going to sneeze, so apologies.
That's okay.
Now I'm waiting for the sneeze to come now.
Yeah.
I find it interesting where when it comes to like mental health or anything of that nature, it's like a juxtaposition or oxymoron of addiction in the sense of you can relapse on it, but it's addicted to you. Where like mental health, like it's addicted to you. It needs you to survive, but like you can be having a really nice day,
Yes.
and then one bad thought, you're back in that zone of. So that's the thing.
Yeah.
So that happened, and yeah, that was.
How long between these three incidents, or like, have you already started, or have you reached out to anyone as soon as the first incident happened?
The first incident happened, and then I was going to like to see a therapist,
right?
And then one day that therapist I was seeing, he just upped and left.
Right.
Up and left, and then like I had no one to talk to.
Right.
So a couple months went by, and then a second one happened, and then I started going to like a men's group where where like a bunch of men in like their 50s who like have anger issues, who lost their families because of their aggression, sitting in a circle, talking about their feelings. I remember there was this one gentleman where I was talking about all my stuff, and like I'd mentioned my mum, and this one gentleman was like this guy, like big, like hooligan looking British guy, bald head, tattoos all over his skull, really big, like someone you don't want to mess with, was like questioning me and what I was saying. And I remember I stood up in this room full of grown men, being like, "Go outside, come, let's talk, come." I was crazy because I was just so angry,
right?
And like, they had to like pull me back. I was ready to fight. So and all this happened over the span of like a year, which felt like 10 years.
Right.
But then at that time, when I was working in Sainsbury's, randomly, I woke up one day and I had this profound interest in words. Don't know what it was. I've always been a big fan of hip hop and rap music.
Okay.
So I guess that happened. And I remember I was working in Sainsbury's and I was putting bread on, stacking bread, and just the line, I present you with a present of a poet's presence in this present moment in time, who provides his picture perfect penmanship that's his pessimistic, pretty sick and full of pain. I don't know where it came from. I don't know what the hell it came from, but I knew, because I've always been such a big fan of art. I was like, stuff like that, you can't, like, that doesn't happen for no reason. So I quickly wrote it down, like on my hand, whatever. And then I think that was the birth of like what became my first ever poem, which was a poem called Artistic, which was about like my trials and tribulation with being autistic, being an artist, going and like references to Greek mythology, and then like love on the spectrum and all this stuff. And then that's when I like started performing at a theater, and then I got a sold out night with my first poem, and that was like slowly building my confidence. Like, okay, so I've got this new interest with words and rhyming, and how can I fuse that with my craft of acting? And that's when performance poetry, spoken word, kicked off for me.
And then how did you?
That's the very quick version of that story.
Yeah, well, again, because now I still want to ask you a couple of things about it. One being, okay, so you're in Sainsbury's. You wrote the first poem, or like the first few lines that came to your mind in that sort of way.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh shit, I gotta write this down. and then you're going. Presumably, you finish your shift. You're going home.
I go home and like just I was working only like 1 day a week in Sainsbury's because I hated it that much.
Right.
And like I just spend the rest of my time just like going to the park and just writing, or going to Starbucks and just writing, just like him, a line a day, just adding to it, and adding to it. And I remember I was in Starbucks. I know how on YouTube it comes up with the recommended videos.
Yeah.
It came up with a poet called Lemon Anderson,
Mm.
a Puerto Rican poet playwright from Harlem, New York. And he was just, his style of spoken word, I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And like
Mhm.
at that time in my life, I was really big into Macklemore, the rapper.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love Macklemore. And I was like, this style of spoken word, but hip hop.
Right,
Like, I
right,
really
right.
liked it. And that's when I started developing my own like style of performing. And because when you've got nothing going for you, and you've got this is the only outlet
Mm.
I had, all my time was spent just writing and in my room rehearsing, and that was it.
And how did you struggle thinking, oh, how am I going to share? Like, did you? At what point did you decide that you want to share this with, say, the world, or like you want to, you know?
I had a friend at the time because I started going back to drama classes,
Mm.
but like only like building my confidence back up very
Okay.
slowly. And I made a friend, and he told me like you should perform this at theatre at Scratch Night, the Lyric
Mm.
Theatre in Hammersmith, and that was a big help. That was a
Right.
big help. We're not friends anymore because he stabbed me in the back and stole my ideas, but I owe him a lot for that. So thank you,
Yeah.
but fuck you.
Fair enough. And right, so now that's how you start. Did you know, again, like when you started writing? Do you already have the vision that this is going to be, you're going to share this, or were you writing in the respect of, oh, this is like me just trying to, just again find an outlet to share my
Exactly,
emotion,
yeah, to share my emotions.
but I don't want to share it with others, if that makes sense.
No, I think it was more so like I just wanted to see what the reception would be to this work. Like if
Interesting.
there's something like stuff like this doesn't just happen, you know. I
Okay.
believe there's a meaning behind everything.
Yeah.
Even if art's meaningless, that's its meaning. It's meaningless.
Yeah.
And I wanted just to see like, okay, if this has popped up randomly
Mhm.
and just come to me, how would it be if what would the reception to it be? And I remember I performed it, and one of the like hooks of the poem is, am I autistic or am I artistic? I remember it was this 8 minute long monologue, and my mum was in the audience, and she heard people saying in the background, fuck autistic, this guy's a genius, and just saying stuff like that. And I remember people at the Lyric Theatre came up to me and were like, you've got potential to write plays, like you've got a lot of power to you, and that when you're suicidal and you're going through BS, like that's a big confidence booster.
Yeah.
So it's slowly building my way up, and yeah.
How long after did that happen? Roughly, you don't have to give the precise.
I think after a year, I think, because
Oh,
when you're
shit.
in that state, a year feels like 10.
Yeah, you should like.
It's
Yeah.
when you're in the trenches that deep, it's
That's the thing. I realized as I asked, I was like, you know what? Actually, I don't think it's. Yeah, it's not the easiest to. Because I don't think. And from personal experience, you don't remember. I don't remember things in chronological order,
Yeah.
and even
It's
then,
all a
sometimes
blur.
I'm like, something that I think about, and I'm like, oh my god, yeah, this happened yesterday, and then it's actually, oh, it's been 9 years.
Yeah.
And stuff, and then sometimes you're like, again, oh, that thing happened ages ago, and it's 2 weeks ago,
Exactly. Yeah, it's crazy.
So fair enough, but then
It's because it's so emotionally draining, and like when you're that drained, like, oh,
it is. Well, this is another thing where, and this is actually a question that I have for you, and it's about, again, when you've got, because this is the thing. I feel like, one, you're struggling with your with everything that's happening to you. Then the struggle is arguably much harder because, again, say, you're autistic, right? Arguably the struggle is harder to understand and explain, and feel your emotions the same way someone else would. And now you still have to, say, be empathetic to like other things that are happening in the world, other people that you encounter. How do you manage that, or like do you actively try anything, or you're kind of like just playing it by the ear?
It depends on the situation. Like
Right.
I do put down in. I've noticed this whenever I'm applying for a new job. I
Mm.
always put down in the application like where it says, "Do you have any like mental health issues or whatever disabilities?" I always say Asperger's, and it's funny, like no one ever checks. I've
Mm.
noticed that. Like, why ask if you're not even going to check?
Check. Yeah.
That pisses me off. Because I remember I was doing a Christmas job recently at a fashion brand, which I won't talk about, which I won't mention because I don't want to get sued. Um, but like they came to me and was like, "Do you have like you're having trouble in the till? Like, what's wrong?" I was like, did you check my application? Like, I've got autism.
Yeah.
Like I can't just learn like that. That's not the way I'm
Yeah.
wired.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, oh, you never said anything. It was like, well, you're the manager. It's your job to check.
Yeah. Yeah. I did right. Like yeah.
Yeah. Like I wrote a poem about this recently. It's called what's it called? It's called uh oh it's called autistic equation or scientific autistic equation where I could compare autism to like star constellations and stuff like that. And I say this line where it's like um they ask, oh, you don't look autistic. I tilt my head like a question mark and say, funny, you don't look ignorant, yet here we are. Yeah.
That's good.
So yeah. I
That
hate that. I hate when
yeah.
people say to me, oh, you don't look autistic. Like, what's autism supposed to look like?
Yeah. That you know what
There's
I
a non-visual, as I call it, diffability, different ability. It's a non-visual diffability.
I mean the thing is with this is like okay well I wish I could like just have a pen and a piece of paper and hand it to the person who goes like, oh you don't look because I again like oh you don't look like you have a personality disorder, you don't look like you're Romanian, you don't look like you're Jewish, you don't look like all this, and I'm like right, like show me what do you think.
It's like it's like that scene in Todd Phillips' Joker when Joaquin Phoenix is laughing hysterically and he has to quickly take out a card. It's like, I've got this disability, like that's why I'm laughing. Like it's like that. Like I shouldn't have to walk around with a card, like a sign saying autism right here.
Well you see and this is another thing that I find quite upsetting where in those situations like you're talking about like jobs application and things like that where it shows the in to a respect like the disconnect between the people who are looking at the job ads, which probably is like some like corporate, and then for their stats they're like, oh yeah, we love people with disabilities, we interviewed that guy, but then now also a part of the job would be to mention that down, to like again the people that you're working on a day-to-day basis, or at least not the people but the people that are say in charge of you on like day-to-day or like daily basis, and then they don't do that, and I'm like, well, it's quite funny that when it benefits you, you want to know it, or like you would, but then when you have to now kind of like pay back for the fact that I've shared this with you,
Yeah,
you don't do it anymore.
yeah. I remember
What's up with that?
I worked for, I kind of respect this manager to an extent, but I was working for another company and he straight up just said to me, like, I don't care if you've got a disability. Like, it's very black and white. He straight up said to me, I don't care if you're a retard. I'm like, whoa, okay, cool.
No way.
Yeah, I don't care. I'm like, whoa.
How long ago was that?
That was probably like a year ago now.
Shut
But
up.
yeah, he just straight up said, I was like, yo, I have to respect it. Like, you're just being quite honest, but I was like, whoa, that's a bit much at the same time. Yeah, he was really like, I don't care. Like, I've got his exact words were, I've got a very much black and white way of thinking. I don't care if you're this.
Yeah, well, that's your thinking. I don't give
Yeah.
a fuck about your thinking.
Yeah, he was quite racist as well. Yeah, he was a bit of an asshole.
There you go.
Screw him. But yeah,
Yeah,
it is what it is.
I mean,
it is what it is.
yeah, but you see, this is oh god, yeah. Oh man. Okay, now let me think about where we're going next with this conversation. Because I mean, in one hand, I'm like, I'm ready to
Say
dish shit out.
Your chest, come.
No, because again, no, I don't want to actually. I don't want to get like worked up by someone that I don't know, and
Fair.
it's like, yeah. Again, it's just annoying because I used to have, and I think, you know what, to certain respects, I still have sometimes like a black and white sort of thinking.
Everyone
But yeah,
does.
but the thing is that that's not because again, ultimately, it's kind of like, oh, by my standards, this shouldn't happen. And like, yeah, but the world doesn't go by your standards, and that's something that you have to be mindful of.
Yeah.
Because again, like, yeah, to me, like I see it a lot with people who like again there was kind of like a little bit of a trend of comedians. I don't know what was it like in like the spoken word or like performative community, but like in comedy was a bit of like people starting like having a dig at like, oh, everyone's got like ADHD now, everyone's got this and everyone's got that. And you know what, fine in the respect of like self what's the word, self diagnosis.
Mhm.
I borderline agree that I feel, you know what, if you feel like something is wrong, you should actually seek professional help and get the diagnosis rather than just being like, I Googled it, I
Yeah.
know. But then in the other hand, you have, again, then what I'm trying to say is this group of people who are like, oh, everyone got something. And I'm like, and
Yeah. Well, it's been found out that I think scientists have said that everyone's on the spectrum to some degree.
I mean, and that's the thing, yeah, because it's a spectrum.
Yeah.
And then this is where, but then also like this thing, why do you have a problem with that? Like, why do you, like, if you go like, oh, I don't care about this, like, which is fine, you don't have to care about this, but technically you live in a society that does care about this or like tries to care about this. So then, it's almost like, yeah, in your own time, you don't have to care about this. But when you're in a work, again, where you're in a social contract,
Yes.
then you kind of have to,
You
even
have
if you
to,
don't
yeah.
want.
Even if you don't want to.
I do things that I don't want to do just because,
Your
I'm,
contract is
again,
very
there is
blunt.
like, yeah, social contract that's like, you got to agree with this. You got to accept, not agree, but like you got to accept. You've got
Mm.
to, again,
You have to be professional.
yeah, you can't tell people what you think about them. Although I'd love to sometimes. And anyway, but yeah, so
That's the beauty of being an artist and being freelance. You
mm,
work under your own rules to a degree, and then when you sign with a contract, you're like, okay,
I feel like this is another thing where people go like, oh, it's great because like you work for yourself and you don't depend on anyone. Actually, you depend on a
yeah,
lot
you
of
do,
things,
you do.
and then you see the doors closing and you're like, oh. Anyway, now what I wanted to ask you is going back to, okay, so what, that's been almost what, 8 years ago when you started,
Yeah,
then, right? What's it been like? And then also like another question that I have is, which again I imagine maybe is the same as comedy, but how do you keep the drive alive? Like what to the respect of like, how, when you write, do you write thinking, oh, this is a story that's a part of this bigger story and now I'm done with it? Or do you feel like this is you're constantly writing and refining the same work that you've already done
good question.
9 years ago?
Like it, the journey started with mental health and just
Right.
talking and like, I guess you could say trauma spewing, just
Yeah.
getting all this off
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
chest.
Yeah.
And I wrote a lot of stuff to do with like autism, to do with school,
Right.
all this stuff like childhood trauma, sibling stuff, just all this other stuff. I actually wrote a short play called Warrior, which just is about my journey through mental health. Um, and I put it on for the ones with Arts Fringe, which was fun. I won an award for it, which was nice and stuff. But
Congrats.
now my work, even though it does focus on some aspects of mental health, it's also now about me proving how versatile I can be.
Okay.
I'm proving just like I'm not just this. I wouldn't say one hit wonder, but like I've got more to me than just mental health. I can do comedy as
Yeah.
well. I can do all these other things because I care about performing as the grand scheme, not everything about it, all encompassing. So I remember I wrote a poem called "Love Is," which focuses on like an aspect of Chaplin slapstick comedy,
Right.
and then like talking about like growing up, going to college, and just like trying to like be flirtatious with girls and all this stuff. And that was a big people got I got a lot of laughs out of it because it was very relatable for a lot of young
Okay.
people. So yeah, that was nice.
And then when you when you're doing this and you're talking about like, oh, you don't want like to be to say that, although I don't think it's a one hit wonder, because again that's like a big spectrum as it is,
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
mental
I
health.
mean, like, so it's like a giant pick and mix.
Yeah.
That's one suite. And then there's the
Ah,
party
got
above.
it, got it, got it, got it, got it. Okay. And then now, how? oh, Actually, yeah, because obviously I think, and please correct me if I'm wrong.
You are wrong.
Okay,
No.
the difference between, because again, like say like poetry and performative, is that your performative writing, is it the fact that you have to be again a bit more again performative?
Yes.
How do you find the energy to, you know what I mean, to do that? Because like to me,
Drugs. No. Yeah, no kidding. Kidding.
I don't again like, yeah, how do you find that the energy to be able to like again put all this work in? And also one other thing that I'm curious, no, actually I'll ask you this and then I'll ask the next question. Yeah, how do you find the energy, or do you feel like you have
I
to
have to be
conserve it?
passionate about the theme
Right.
I'm talking about, because I've written a lot of stuff where like I'm just it's that's the difference between, for me, spoken word and performance poetry. They're two vastly
Yeah.
different things. Like spoken word, it's, even though it's the performance art, it's
Yeah.
more speaking the words.
Yes.
Performance poetry, you're performing it. I can do both, and I've written a lot of spoken word stuff, but when it comes to the performance, it's more theatrical for me. I have to think about a performance concept as well as a writing concept. And if I'm passionate about it and it's something I really want to explore, then the energy will just come.
And then does that mean when say you're doing and I feel like now, because again I think you're the first person. I have a friend of mine who's a writer, so I spoke with her about her journey of writing, but then again with you I'll go on the more technical side of,
Oh God.
like just understanding, like
Yeah.
how this works. Is the I imagine then if say you're doing a routine tonight,
Mhm.
can you change between, because obviously like now if your level like your performance has to be, say one is sad and one is happy, or like
Yeah.
one makes you like one's coming from a place where you are angry and the other one's from a place where you're sad.
Mhm.
Again, those two don't really, they kind of like bump heads.
Mhm.
Can you, or like how do you manage to switch over of like, oh, I have to be angry for this poem,
Right. Yeah.
like this piece of work, and now I have to be I have to have a different energy
Uh-huh.
for this other thing.
So I think a main factor into it is understanding what type of mood the audience is in, being able to read the room.
Right.
And I always have a poem I like to start with, which is like a warm up poem, just to test the audience. Like it speaks a lot about mental health, but then again, it's also like it's a crowd warmer.
Right.
Like, and if people like really like it, then I can see if like their reaction to it. Like if they're like applauding, then
Yeah.
it's okay, it's high energy now, so I can do a difference between mental health or comedy.
Yeah.
But if it's very quiet, then like, okay, cool, they really want to just listen, so they want to hear some type of story. I
Right.
can't do comedy because I always feel like comedy has to have some type of high energy to it, if that makes sense. You're
does make
stand up,
sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'm not a high energy. I'm actually quite. I'm
but
very.
you know what I mean, like
Yeah, I see what you mean,
yeah.
and I get it. Yeah.
So I think that answered your question.
And it did, because I think, did I told you the story about my first gig?
No, but please go in.
It was at like an
because
artistic night, like it wasn't a comedy night.
okay,
It was actually, and then this it was loads of like poetry happening, and then there was this girl before me, and she did like a poem, and one was about, at least I remember the last two that she did. One was about her ex-boyfriend, who was like a prick, basically. That's the highlight. And then the other one was about her dead dog.
oh,
And then I remember, going like hearing that, oh, next act for you is,
how do you follow that? Yeah,
it's this guy called Levy, and he's a comedian. And I was like, oh,
God.
shit.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that was, I think, I'm not exaggerating, that was the last time I did.
I do feel like there should be some type of like performer awareness. Like you should know what the person's doing before or after you, so you have an idea. But
it was pretty much like an open mic, sort of, which is again fair enough. And also, it went quite well. But what I'm saying is that, and also, I think it went quite well because I had loads of like mates in the audience. because I think because I knew that I'm not gonna go otherwise. So then I told a lot of people that I'm gonna try to do stand up for the first time. So lots of people came to watch me, which I'm very grateful for. And then I think, but then I just remember when as this girl, because like this girl is again doing these poems, and I'm thinking I'm next. I'm fucked. I am so fucked. Yeah.
So here's an interesting story. I think one of the biggest driving factors for me when it comes to performing is that I'm my biggest critic or my worst enemy. So I remember when I went through all the BS with school, the first time I ever went to an audition for college for a performing arts course, I knew I was going nowhere with my life fast. So I just put all my all into this one audition.
Right.
So it was like, because there was a hunger to me.
Yeah.
And then there was a hunger to me to audition for drama school and all this stuff. And when it came to performing my first poem at the Lyric Theatre, there was a hunger to me. And the second time I ever performed poetry, I wasn't as rehearsed or well rehearsed because it was a new poem I was performing, and I choked. And the poem just completely disappeared out of my head.
No way.
Yeah. And then I remember I took a step back and I was like, all right, cool. And then I waited a couple more years just so I could refine my own style a little bit more. And then just as I was about to go out and perform again, COVID hit. Everything was shut down. But that was like for me, that was a blessing in disguise because it means I was very fortunate enough because I was being furloughed at that time. So I could spend all my time at home just writing and I was getting paid. So I really fine-tuned my style, my writing.
Yeah.
And then when some things opened up, I then started performing in the poetry scene more seriously. And that's when people started paying like, whoa, who's this guy? This guy's good. And then it was like,
is that how you like how it built up basically?
Yeah. Because then like I done a poem about Grenfell, which was still quite relevant at that time.
Yeah.
And then people were like, oh wow, this guy's really good politically. And then I done a comedy poem like, oh, this guy's really funny. And then I done the poem about autism again. They're like, oh wow, this guy's built different kind of. So not to toot my own horn, but
well, the thing is, because I think it's a good time actually to how did you say sing into your own horn or what?
What did I just say? Toot your own horn.
Oh,
toot your own horn.
Toot your own horn. I think it's a good time to toot your own horn in the respect of telling me like what have you got coming, not to just me but everyone listening. What do you have coming up? Honestly, if there is anything coming up.
Honestly, don't have much coming up because I've kind of not hit a wall, but I'm not the biggest fan of the poetry scene at the moment.
Okay.
I say that because I'm going to ruffle some feathers probably saying this, but fuck it. There's a lot of fake people in the poetry scene who don't care about poetry, who just care about clout, who care about Instagram followers, who don't care about the actual art form of writing.
But you're talking about like the London scene, or
not encompassing the entire poetry scene. There's some great events.
Of course.
There's some great events, but there's a lot of other people that are just like, I think like with the most of the art world and probably even comedy circuit, it's like there's a lot of gatekeeping and stuff like that, which I just don't agree with. Like, especially when you need performing, you kind of depend on it because it helps you.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of people trying to like being difficult for no reason because of their own jealousy and stuff like that. And I'm not a fan of it. So I've just kind of gone away and I'm like, all right, cool. I'll let you do all that.
Yeah.
I'm going to do my own thing.
Right.
That's all I care about.
Okay. And do you have an idea of what that looks like, or do you are you still like at the moment where you're trying to figure out?
So I was kind of a bit of both. I've decided to like, I think we spoke about this previously off mic, but like how important Instagram is and social media. It is like, as you said, it pissing against the wind. So that's what I'm kind of focusing a lot more on. So I remember because this is going to definitely ruffle some feathers, but some people in the poetry scene have gone viral recently, not naming names, for very shit work.
Right.
Very crap writing, and people are like, this is genius, and like just like kissing ass. I'm like, you guys, like, this is not good work. Like people, it's like, oh, it's like Shakespeare. Like, are you serious? Like, it's terrible work. It's a polished turd. I'm sorry, like, if that's going to piss people off, but it's just my opinion. And I was like, all right, cool. It's kind of like, I'm gonna take Instagram a lot more seriously now. I'm gonna try my best with my work.
Yeah,
to see
yeah,
what happens.
yeah.
So I kind of went into a real like driven mode where I've written 52 poems, new poems in 3 months. So yeah, I kind of locked myself away and wrote a new poem a day for 3 months essentially. And
Right.
now I've started my journey of like I'm gonna upload a new poem. I'm uploading a new poem every week for 52 weeks.
Good.
So that's a year's worth of just
Yeah,
new
yeah, yeah.
content. And I'm writing more and more work.
That's good.
Yeah. Some work and from what we spoke recently about the Rick Rubin book, the Creative Act, how Rick Rubin talks about you just need to get your work out there.
Yeah, yeah.
Even if I think the poem's crap and it's not my best work because I suffer from imposter syndrome. I focus so I'm a perfectionist and I need the work to be to my standards. I'm like, no, I can't have that anymore.
Yeah.
I want to get my work out. So even if it's crap, I'm still releasing it. I don't care. I'm just seeing what happens now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's it.
Which makes a lot of sense because again, I was gonna say I feel like coming back to the whole idea of like which I see it in comedy as well with the gatekeeping and everything, and it's kind of like
I understand. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
I understand it completely. I get why.
yeah,
But then again, it's interesting because like we talk about mental health so much in the art world, and like I always think it's interesting when it comes to like I'm writing this poem which goes into it. It's called Van Gogh's Revenge, and because Van Gogh was gatekept to shit, he was like because his work was very new for its time, and the art world like didn't like his work and all this stuff, and that's what made him unfortunately take his own life. And it's like we know this in the art world and we know this in society, but yet why do we still do it?
yeah,
If you like, so that says a lot about you as an individual. So while you've got people in the poetry scene who talk about like peace, love, like mental health and all this stuff, like you're committing these same acts. It's a contradiction. Like
Yeah.
that I really don't like. So that's the kind of stuff I'm kind of going into. I'm like so when I wrote artistic, that was in a place of like real anger and pain for my own like personal life.
yeah,
This new poem I'm writing goes into all of that stuff, and it's coming from a place of like anger, but not anger, but more like question. Like
yeah, yeah,
I'm like I want to see what would happen if I ruffle feathers because it's a risk.
yeah.
But then again, the best work is risky. The best work, art is meant to piss people off. Believe it or not, if you like it, great. If you don't like it, even better. You know, that's how we grow as society, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
So let's just see what happens. And like, I'm gonna get hate for it. And I've told the closest friends around me have turned to me and be like, I don't know, man. That's the perfect reason why you should do it. See what happens. So, yeah. But I'm still writing it. We're gonna see. I might not even release it because I've been writing it for the past couple of years now. Because it's been like a domino effect, seeing BS happen in the poetry world. I'm like, no,
I mean, you know,
I don't agree with it.
well, that's what I was gonna say. Like, obviously, with having seeing all this, I think the one of the best things is that even if there is gatekeeping now, we are at the time when you can just make your whole again, you make your own events, you can make your own institution. You can also like, especially because that's how I use social media as well. Is that you can just post stuff. Again, it's pretty much how again is the case of musicians. Just like if they goes like, okay, well, if nobody's gonna buy this, I'm gonna put it on YouTube, and see what happens. So that's pretty much the way it works. And
Yeah.
people like content, and then you know what, if the content is good, and like you said, I think it even shows on the respects of when you see other comics, or again, I talk comics, but like, yeah, we see other creatives who get a lot of attraction on something that you're like, this is actually not good, or like at least again, it is not the great work,
But
it's just the fact that they had it there for people to find.
yeah. But with that said, I'm fully aware that art is subjective because it's a matter of perspective.
Of course,
So
yeah.
what I consider not good work or polished turd, it's perfectly acceptable if you like the work. But with that said, I do feel like there's a level of respect to the craft.
Yeah.
Like if you say you care about writing and you don't know what a couplet is, which is just two lines that rhyme, or like a monostitch, which is a poem which is one sentence, it shows you care about the craft and writing. You've gone out of your way to learn about it. Like even with stand up, you've taken time out your way to learn about comedic timing and stuff.
Yeah.
But then you get someone who comes in out of nowhere and they've gone viral with one poem. They don't know anything about it. That
Yeah.
I find to be quite disrespectful. But it is the way of the world. Life's unfair. But I'm allowed to have an opinion, and I'm not afraid to say you're shit. And if you think I'm at a stage now where I know I'm good at what I do. I'm sorry to sound cocky, but like I've had a nice amount of not success, but I've achieved a few things which I'm
Yeah.
good about. So, and I've had people come to me like in industry professionals and say stuff like, "You're really good," and like that is a
Very nice.
wonderful thing. Where
Yeah.
so I'm not afraid to say to these people who have gone viral and be like, "You think you're really good? Step on the stage with me, and we'll see if you're really worth those views." Come on, like I'm not afraid of you. Let me see what you got. I've been through hell and back. Let me see.
That's that's a that's cool.
Yeah, I mean,
That's cool,
I'm
man.
definitely going to sound cocky, and I know if my mum sees this, sorry, mum, she's pretty like, I don't know if you should have said that, son, but
I mean, look, if you
it's competitive. Like it's friendly competitiveness.
yeah, well, I think that this is another thing where you're meant to want like you should be competitive, but like again in a way that is like healthy and
Yeah,
you're like, aspiring
exactly.
to do
I
your
agree.
best work. So
I agree.
yeah, you know what I see it. I get it. I get it. Makes sense because again, like it's like yeah, without competition, it's what complacement comes in place,
Exactly.
and especially like you said, I think sometimes it's good to also show even when even if say like okay the argument now is that you've put up like this poem and it's been like you should prove that you're not like a one-hit wonder that should be the
Yeah.
next goal.
And I see a lot of people honestly uploading the same poem, but like different sections of it and still getting like massive amount of traction. Like, okay, cool. How about you write something new and see if you get the same traction off that?
I mean,
How
but you
about
see,
you write a poem that about a theme or subject that's not trending and see if you can get attraction from that? Because I try not to write about stuff that's trending because I know that's what's gonna that does get attention, but I want to see like what can I make trending, if that makes sense.
it does, but also I can see
It's I can see it
it's
as
much
well.
harder.
It's much
Yeah,
much harder. So it's
yeah, because you're
difficult.
kind of like you're riding a wave that's there, and then now you're kind of like looking for a wave that may or may not come.
Hmm.
So, but again, with that, I feel like still again it's yeah, it's not easy.
No,
That's
it's
for sure, man. Yeah,
not easy.
that's what I'm like when I'm thinking, because I get it, and it's almost like that sort of you want something when it's kind of like rising, but it's not risen too
Hmm.
much because you don't want to be on the down.
Exactly.
When the wave goes back down, you kind of like want it, but yeah, again, I feel like those Olympics, those gymnastics, sorry, that people have to do are a bit insane. And but I just feel like, you know what? Ultimately, put your work out there. And I feel like
Yeah.
thanks to algorithms and all this, something that you've released last year can go viral tomorrow.
Yeah, like
And
I know a guy who shouts out to he was a battle rapper who's now a spoken word poet called Big Scoop, very talented writer. He done a rap battle 2 years ago and he went viral off it like a year later. So it does happen. Like it's just about catching up.
yeah, and that's the thing. Again, I think you're right in the respects of just put your work out there.
Yeah,
Just put your work out there.
even if it's bad.
Yeah,
Get out there.
I mean, again, because it's bad by whose standard? Because, like you said, it's subjective. Like, I mean, I think sometimes, and I've seen it from even experience where, like, I write something, and I'm not saying it's not. I'm being. Yeah, I'm not about to say that. Oh, actually, I'm being too critical. I don't think it was good writing, or I don't think it's the best that it can be. And then I get a better reaction than something that I've spent months.
Yeah.
'Cause I actually, one of the jokes I was telling you on the way the coffee shop and back, when I was like, like that the joke that we were talking about is one of the jokes that I'm like, oh, I'm so tired. I'm almost like I'm tired of doing this, and I made it by accident, and then I have bits that I've been working on for 3 years, and
I'm
they're
the
still
same
not good enough.
with a lot of my work. I'm tired of performing the same trauma stuff. I'm like, I want to see what else I can do now.
Yeah.
So I've started writing plays as well because I want to see like because I'm such a film fan. I've got all these ideas for stories. Can I bring them to life?
And how do you do that?
I done a short course through organization called Write and Scribes where I had the opportunity to write a short play for that Hackney Empire, which was about the play was called Pain. So it was about a painter who's suffering from bereavement, And the same thing happened with that through happened at the Lyric Theatre. The course tutor came to me and was like, "You got a real natural ability of writing dialogue," and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So now I'm slowly. I've got like 5 play ideas I want to write, but yeah, it's a journey. So let's see what happens.
Very cool, man. Well, you know what? Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, that's it. Damn, there's still so much we could have spoken about.
What do you want to talk about?
I don't know. What do you want to talk about? I'm having fun, man. This is
Okay. I was
if,
again.
if you want to continue for a bit longer, we can.
Okay, because I was just being conscious of
Unless you-
saying that I'll keep you for no, because I was conscious for like saying that I'll keep you for an hour. Okay.
I don't have a life.
Huh?
I don't have a life. I've got nothing planned.
No, but it was your birthday yesterday.
Yeah, I don't have a life. I don't celebrate my birthday. I don't do out. I don't go out. I don't do anything.
Nothing.
No, I don't like the attention, which is interesting. I'm a performer, but I don't like the attention.
I mean, that's pretty weird because I have the same. Well, again, I have the same. No, I like the attention, but like to a certain extent.
Yeah, it's kind of like
And-
this is my work. Now leave me alone.
Yeah. It's like, oh, it's my birthday, but
Yeah.
I also like I want to be like, okay, thank you for the wishes. Bye now.
Yeah,
Interesting. Okay, but then what? Let's go into. No, okay. You know what? Because it was your birthday. My gift.
your gift.
Yeah, my gift to you is
Striptease.
no, not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, it has to be a big number. Yeah, 32 is not significant enough. 30. If you make it past 33,
May-
so if you make it past
if
what
I
like
make it
Jesus,
past.
yeah,
Thanks.
the Jesus levels, then maybe.
Fair. Okay, cool.
Yeah, on your 34th birthday or the day before your 30 no on your 34th birthday I might.
I still can't believe my mum thought I was 35. It's like she said, "How old are you?" I'm 32. I was like, "I think 35." I'm like, "No, not that old."
That's funny.
No, it's not.
I mean, I know. I think it's funny.
Okay, cool. But yeah,
Yeah.
go on. Your question, please.
No, but that was actually was just to say that. Look, because yeah, it was your birthday yesterday. What topic do you want to? Well, actually, yeah, like let's go more on. No, because this is the thing. I want to ask you, or I want to talk about more about like mental health. But then you said you've been writing about mental health. You've done a lot of poetry about, or like again, a lot of your work has been about mental health. Do you want to talk about?
We can talk about mental
Yeah.
health. If you have a dying question, burning question you want to talk
No, I think just in general, because actually with some of the things that I'm curious about is, you've been writing, you've done your work.
Mhm.
How does it?
I still do write about mental health, just in more creative ways when it comes to performing.
Right. Okay. And how do you? Have you had this sort of have you had people after they've listened going like, hey, you know what, man, like I appreciate what you're saying, or
Yeah, I performed at an event I think 2 years ago now called Says Event, which doesn't run as much and before, but anyway, I performed and I had this young man come up to me saying like, I really appreciate your work. It's really nice. Like, what do you do to get out of that rut? And I said to him, what really helped me was that I got lost in rediscovering myself. So I'd go away and I'd like watch all my favorite movies,
Yeah.
like just come back to my old childlike self, like what made me me in the first place. And then I went on to say like I started doing things that I've always wanted to but never did. So I started going to museums by myself and going to the cinema by myself and get used to my own company and like go to the gym. Working out really helps me. Like we've all got that one thing that makes us happy. So yeah, just do that.
Then how do you feel? Well, actually, yeah, this is another thing, because obviously when you're writing, you're to an extent, well, obviously you're being what's the word?
Honest?
Vulnerable.
Vulnerable. Yeah.
Well, honest and vulnerable, but then again, you're vulnerable is like a new level of vulnerability, which is in front of strangers.
Mhm.
That it's not as if, I don't know. I feel like there is a big difference between wanting to be vulnerable in front of a beloved one,
Yeah.
and then to be vulnerable in front of people who don't know you and you don't know them.
But which one would you say is harder? Like
I think the second is harder.
really, I think the first might be hard.
Why in front of a beloved?
Yeah.
No, I think the second. Why do you think the first started?
I think it depends on your relationship with that beloved person. Like I found it difficult to be vulnerable in front of my mum because I thought she had like some type of outlook on me as a son,
Right.
so I couldn't show that. Not necessarily say being vulnerable is a weakness, but when you're uninformed of mental health and when it comes to masculinity and stuff like that,
Yeah.
being vulnerable isn't exactly the most manly thing, quote unquote. But
Yeah, but I think I see, and that's a very good point. My thinking was just the fact that again you're invested. You know, you it's almost like, you know, if say you want to again you want to not even explain yourself, but you want to tell your best friend how you feel about like what you've been going through. You want to tell your lover. You want to, you know, I feel like I'm talking as if like I'm some like I don't know 50-year-old dude like, oh, you're a lover, your former lover. No, but then there is a difference because again like there you it's almost like you have you've already invested something, and for the other person they also invested something, so it's almost like, you know, like actually one of the things that I struggled with the first time when I started kind of like telling people what's been going on through my head, and like even remember living with one of my best friends many years ago, and while we were living together I went through certain stages of like, you know, planning the end of my life.
oh
And
yeah,
and then once I told him years later, he had no idea.
yeah,
And then bear in mind, we were one wall away
away,
from each
yeah.
other. But then even then, sometimes yeah. So basically, my point is that sometimes when I started opening up to people, I just felt like I felt almost like bad or guilty because I was like, oh, these people have already invested time and energy in me, so of course they want to be on, or like they will be understanding,
Mhm.
because if they don't, they come across as pricks.
Mm.
Sorry for a lack of better, you know, word. But then when you're doing it in front of strangers, it's like, again, those guys can be, or like people can be the people who are gonna make fun of it,
Yeah.
can be the people who are just either like not gonna give a fuck about it. And I feel like that's because again, those people don't have any investments besides of the fact that they are like, oh, I've been listening to you for 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Or even I think even especially when he's on a social media app, it's even less, you
Mm.
know, because I've been listening to you for 30 seconds, and I can either go like, oh wow, this is good, or like, oh, I'm impressed by this, or like I appreciate whatever the word would be, or it can be like, this is shit. And
Mm.
then in that bit that someone would go like, oh, this is shit, that can be the bit where I talk about one of the most painful things that's ever happened to me.
Yeah, and that could have helped that person who's saying it's shit. You never know.
I mean,
Doubt it, but
yeah, I doubt it by that.
that's them issue. That's their problem. Like
It is, but
being honest, you're just sharing your truth.
yeah, that's true. But I feel again, like, yeah, ultimately, that's harder. I feel like that would be harder to me.
Fair. I do think there's a superpower though on being vulnerable. I think it does take a lot of courage to do it,
Yeah,
especially in a
no, of
room
course,
full of
of course.
strangers.
Yeah, of course, of course.
But
I think
my outlook is there could be that one person in this room um that this really helps. Like I remember I performed once at a dance event, whatever, and this man, this like 6'3" bodybuilder guy
yeah,
came up to me and I thought, oh God, what's gonna happen here? And I'm not the biggest guy, clearly, and he just came up to me with like a tiny tear in his eye, was like, thank you.
that's
Like
nice.
talking about school, and it was like I never like I thought I was the only one. I was like, Jesus Christ. I'm like, whoa, this is powerful.
Yeah, like, oh,
Yeah.
good,
And I've
good.
had other people like hit me up on social media, and it's like I'm not gonna go into the conversation of how,
Yeah, of
but
course.
you have to be careful because like they can people can become a little bit too dependent on you,
Yeah.
and then that's when you have to like put your arm out, like, oh, this is way too much now, man. Like you're like I'm just a human being. I can't hear this stuff. It's a bit much for me.
Well, yeah, I feel like that's the sort of the sort of like again time when you've got to be like, hey, you need to speak with someone
Yeah,
who can actually help you
yeah.
more than just listening.
Because a lot of people say like art is therapy, and it is
To an extent.
to an extent, yeah. But I think to get to the deep root of the issue or the problems or whatever it is you're facing, you need to speak to someone, and Like you need to dig it out, man. You need to go through the trenches. Unfortunately, it's just the way it is.
Well, this is actually one of the first things I've not the first one of the things that I found most, and I still find it quite frustrating when I hear comedians say that, oh, comedy is therapy, and I'm like, not in the it is, but not in the way that you're saying that it is. Because again, it's comedy is therapy in the sense
It's
of
therapeutic.
it's therapeutic, yeah,
It's not
but
therapy.
it's not therapy. I feel like and especially it happens a lot, and I don't know if you've seen this with, and also like this is actually I'll tell you this, and then I'm gonna ask you what's your take on it.
Go on.
It's basically in comedy there is quite a trend when and I'd say just for everyone listening is not so much. I don't notice it so much in like the pro circuit, but it's more on the semi pro and like the up and coming, like the open micers, where people would go on stage and share some of the most like traumatic shit I've ever heard in my entire life,
Yeah.
and it's not really a joke. Like they don't even write, but and then because they don't get the laugh, they'll be like, oh, comedy is therapy, and I'm like, well, now I feel more depressed
Yeah.
than before.
And it makes
So,
it more hard for the comedic coming up, for the comic coming up. Like,
but now it's this sort of thing where I'm like, again, like you should speak with someone that's like who can actually help you.
yeah.
What's your take on that? And again, like, how do you when you're writing, when you're doing your work, how do you draw the line between writing something about mental health, writing something powerful, but yet not oversharing or not, perhaps again, like where is the line for you, if there is a line, um, on how you're writing to say again, still protect the person that's going to hear your work or see your work, yeah, and still sharing something meaningful.
That's a good question. So finding the balance between the
Yeah,
two.
yeah, yeah.
That's a good one because it, I don't feel like you can sugarcoat mental health.
Of course, no, no.
Right. And I don't think I think for me as well with my work, you can't spoon feed it,
Mm.
like there's because it is a spectrum as well, and there's multiple layers to it. And if I'm going to talk about it, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to be honest. Like this is life, And I think it also depends on like reading the room again, like because I know I've performed for an event and they banned me, which sucks.
Holy shit.
It really sucked. But then again, they weren't exactly open. They were like, "Hey, perform whatever you want." Like, are you sure? Yeah, perform whatever you want. I performed whatever I wanted, and someone in the audience complained, and they were like, "Yeah, we don't want you back." I'm like, "The hell." I was like, "Do you have any evidence of this person complaining?" And I was like, they were like, "No," but they just felt uncomfortable. And if they felt uncomfortable, clearly haven't I done my job as an artist and performer? I've been honest, but they didn't like the point I made, so is what it is.
Shit.
Yeah. But then again, I would also say that's a bit of an accomplishment
Yeah.
because, like, that means you've kind of really affected the person
Yeah.
and held up a mirror. And
How long ago was that?
this was like over a year ago now.
Shit, man.
I want to say who the organization is, and I have said on a previous podcast, which is yet to come out, and I don't know if I want to again.
It's fine. Don't worry, because I don't want to. Although in one hand is good for clickbaiting, but in the other hand, I'm not. Yeah, I'd much rather. No, I'm being honest.
Yeah.
But in the other hand, I feel like. Yeah, you're here. Share your story, brother. Don't share. It's not nothing to do with them. Or even in this situation, is I don't know. It's weird because you'd think again in comedy, it's kind of like, again, it's one of the unwritten laws of like the social contract that you're
Yeah.
binding when you watch a comedy show. Where you're like, you know what, you might like some people, you might not like some people. But I think the line gets drawn if someone says something that is been it's been like deemed as offensive, not just the fact that I don't like it. That there's a difference between, because I don't like a lot of comedians, but it doesn't mean they shouldn't perform again.
No, yeah, I agree. I'm the same with
It's kind of like I'm not gonna watch.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean, and I think it's the same with, like, I mean, for example, because you talked about like Macklemore. Like and I think growing up, I really liked Macklemore.
But now,
I
not as
can't
much.
stand the prick.
Fair.
But you know what? Again, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't.
No, yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm the same with poets. Like, just because I don't agree with the way a lot of people in the scene behave doesn't mean you can't do it. Of course, you can do it. It's all
Yeah,
life. Enjoy.
yeah. That's
You're
where
a prick, but you know,
that's where the whole sort of like like having the living in a society that offers you the liberty to choose. This is again one of the downsides of being in a democracy is the fact that you bump heads with people that you don't like,
but
but that's just the way it is.
that's the thing. Like, you can bump heads with people, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's a bad person.
No, yeah,
You
of
can,
course, of course.
yeah,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
think that's interesting about society. Like, just because you disagree with someone doesn't mean you have to like hate them completely.
Yeah, and I also feel like sorry, go on.
No, that was it.
I was gonna say I also feel like with the whole hatred thing, it's kind of like it's a full time job, you know.
Yeah,
Hating is like it's
yeah,
yeah
it
that,
is. Being a hater is a full time job.
yeah. So that's why I'd like to think that I don't care for people. Like if someone goes, like the sort of like, oh, you're dead to me list.
Yeah,
That's as
That's-
far as I go.
yeah.
I
Like,
can't
I've
spend more time than that.
I've got friends where like I've got like so much in common with them, and there'll just be one tiny thing. And just because it's that one tiny thing we disagree on doesn't mean I have to like shun you out of my life completely.
Oh yeah, especially with stuff like that, where it's kind of like it's yeah. I think it's okay. I think it's good. It's healthy, man.
Yeah.
To although I think well, having said that, at many times I do enjoy surrounding myself with people that are like-minded. But in the same time, again, it's not fair to say that I would just take out of my life the ones I don't
Yeah.
agree with in certain things.
Well, it's like I think the quote goes, if you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room because you should
Yeah,
always be
that's good.
learning and growing.
Yeah.
So,
That's a good.
Yeah.
That's a good quote. But you know what? I got another podcast coming up.
cool. Yeah. On your grind, Mr. Busy over here,
No, I
Pushing
think
through, man.
Just for
pushing through. Like,
yeah,
get
but I think
content out.
it's just for again. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
God blessed me with such a wonderful mind that people want to
Keep
hear
going
my
on.
yeah that people want to hear my thoughts on other platforms.
I like talking to you. I remember when I knew we were gonna get along when the first time I met you
Why?
because you the way you articulate yourself, I was like, yeah, this guy knows what's up.
How
the
do
way,
you mean?
the way you talk, like you're very intelligent, and I like talking to intelligent people. Again, if you're in the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room.
I'd like to introduce you to some people that you should tell them what you just said.
No, but
Yeah.
from previous conversation we've had, like
Mom, dad.
from what we've from what we've discussed over a nice Subway sandwich, it was like, yeah,
Yeah.
this guy gets me. This guy's a real one.
I mean, but again, this is the thing though, is like, I don't know. And but again, ultimately, I feel like I do, and I think everyone does enjoy the company of like-minded people because it's easy and it's, you don't have to work.
Mhm.
But then once in a while, you do have to, stick your head in the, in the beep, wherever bees live, just
You
to,
have to have those hard
yeah, to get a bit of a, adrenaline
Yeah.
rush. Well, like anyway, look, Jody, it's been such a pleasure.
Hopefully
It's been amazing, and I want to do it again.
No, most definitely do a part 2.
Perfect.
Yeah, hopefully I answered your questions to the best of my ability.
I mean, you definitely you did, and
If anyone's listened to this and it's inspired something and made you think, cool, great, wonderful.
what's your socials then?
My socials, just at the moment, it's just Instagram. It's Bard of the Bush. So BARDOF
Cool. And well, anyway, the link is going to be in the bio
All right, cool.
of the link is going to be in the bio of this the summary of the episode. Cool. Thanks, man. Thanks, brother.
Yeah, and love yourself. Peace. Bye.
Cool. So, I hope you enjoyed listening to this. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and it was such a cool time to spend with Jody. I want to do this again um, as soon as we can, basically. And thank you so much for listening to, especially to my conversation with Jody. And I know you didn't sign up for. Maybe you haven't signed up for the beginning, bit, and that was quite heavy. But I appreciate you guys for listening. And even if you skipped it, you know what? That's fine. I appreciate you for skipping and then coming back to listen to my conversation with Jody, because it was cool. I think it was a great episode. I think we covered some pretty good topics, and yeah, I appreciate you all for listening. And from me, Pickle and Sarma, until next week, stay skillful. Goodbye.